Hi, everyone watching. Hopefully, you've just had a chance to watch the film Digger, and thank you for joining us for the Philadelphia Film Festival. We're really happy to be joined by the film's writer and director, Georgis Grigorakis, who's kind enough to join us from Greece to discuss the film a little bit. So thank you again for taking the time. Um,
Thank you for having
I
me.
guess the first thing I want to ask is, for me, when I think about the film, it really more than for a lot of other films, it conjures up this sort of feeling of place.
Hmm.
And I was wondering, what is your connection to the location where the film is set, to this particular sort of landscape?
Um, I mean, I don't have a personal connection with this particular. This particular location that we shot, which is in the it's a mountainous area in the north of Greece, close to Thessaloniki. Um, but I think the sense of space is very important to the protagonist, and I liked this idea that we could tell a story which is very local and try to make this story universal in a way, and I think now, even now with the pandemic and everything, I think that it's interesting because we are being forced to be local in a way.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice. It's in the era of globalization, in a way the local is the universal, and vice versa. So um but the film is about the attachment that this character, the protagonist, has with the place, and how much he cares and how much he loves and how much he wants to protect um, uh, the forest. It's like he's the guardian of the forest.
Yeah. Well, could you talk a little bit sort of about the origin of this story and a little bit about the writing process and how it sort of came to be?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it all started with this character. And this character, this idea of this man who lives alone in the middle of nowhere, in the heart of a forest, and he's like dealing with two enemies in a way. That one, on the one hand, he has this industrial monster that eats away everything, and threatens his property and his land. And on the other hand, it's like an inner threat. It's like the ghosts of his pasts and his choices, um, which become alive with the appearance of his son after 20 years. And it was, I was very much interested in this dead end that this man was into, that because his identity is so much associated with this place, and his life, his lifestyle, and he cannot, if he leaves the place, he is dead because he doesn't know anything else. But if he stays, again, he suffers because of the threats. So the basic axis was this, the threats of this character, and then it's this father-son relationship and how this is reflected with the relationship, the fight between people and nature in a way,
Yeah,
and
I
this
mean,
and this
it's
civil war between father and son, which kind of also reflects the social civil war around this industry.
yeah, it's a really fascinating film because I think it does speak to these almost like mythical or like elemental qualities of like, man versus nature and father versus son, like these things that feel very elemental to just like storytelling and culture, but then at the same time it feels very specific and very rooted in issues of deforestation and environmental collapse, and even like just the political situation in contemporary Greece comes up. What did you sort of view as being the relationship of the film to like uh, more contemporary sort of political issues?
Sorry, I missed. I didn't hear the last part of the question. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So, do you view the film as being? It's a fascinating film because I think it feels like very classic and almost like mythical in
Mhm.
its the sort of elemental elements of the story. But then at the same time, it feels very contemporary and very timely. And did you feel like you were responding to these sort of political questions of labor and deforestation and environmental collapse in Greece?
Mhm. Um, yeah, I mean, in a way, it started. Yeah, we had these political and environmental concerns while thematically, as we were writing the film. Um, you know, yeah, we were influenced by that. It's not that we said we want to make a film about something, because when you deal with an environment, I mean, the environment is something very like very concerned that it's very imperative nowadays. But at the same time, it's nature, so it's already something archetypical there. In a relationship with nature, and it's like our human history. It's all about how we can conquer nature and how we can, it was like evil nature against us, which is in a way like a wrong narrative, because and that's the idea of 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 the way we want to explore manhood in this film. It's not about the relation of the father and the son. It's not about who dominates the relationship, but it's about how they can achieve a more equal relationship. And this goes back to our relationship with nature. It's like in the 60s we wanted to have, people were fighting for equality about gender and race, which is very still going on. But now it's also the nature requires equality. And yeah, it's a timeless and contemporary, these issues, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
I
no,
don't
that's
I
a
don't
that's
think that we're going to resolve them easily.
no, they're
So
big questions for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the sort of I mean, I was particularly struck by the opening of the mudslide
Mhm.
scene, and what were some of the challenges of filming that? Was that all staged?
Um, I mean, yeah, that was a combination of special effects and visual effects, which worked out. I mean, it was difficult anyway because we are in a poor country with not a poor industry, so we need to find solutions. Um, and if we were lucky, we found the right people. We had like my production designer and production manager, find solutions to make something which we couldn't really handle in terms of budget, to make it look like decent, and that it has the effect that it should have in the film. It wasn't easy, uh, but it was, like our protagonist, the whole like crew needed to dive into mud, to make this film possible. In a way, yeah,
Yeah,
literally.
no, I mean, I think that comes across. The film feels very rooted in its location, and also the sound design I thought was really amazing. I feel like the film, especially because there are so many scenes that don't have a lot of dialogue, you really
Mm,
had to sort of use sound and the score, which I think worked really beautifully together to
mm.
create this sense of place. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that, about the sound design and also the score.
Yeah, I'm glad you found it interesting. I mean, in general, in the way I write, because I really like, because it is a visual medium, but also an audiovisual medium, and I really believe that sound and image can say so much in a story. I like to have scenes with a lot of dialogue, but also scenes of no dialogue, just to give um, the chance for the sound to be developed. Um, and play its role. So, and we try to do that in a way also to make the forest another protagonist, which is, because it's the father, it's the son, but it's you know it, the forest is a protagonist because in the end it gives the resolution to the drama in a way. Um, so yeah, we really, with the sound, we try to make it as alive as possible. Um, and this contrast also, of industry and nature is what we also try to express that with the sound and the industrial sound. And so we had this hard cuts between a lot of noise and the peaceful contrast of nature. Um, yeah, and also we had a really good sound designer from Greece and a great sound mixer from France, which helped a lot
Yeah,
in making
it's
that
beautifully,
possible.
beautifully done.
And then the score, um, we tried to we use some references from like contemporary westerns, like Dead Man, Jarmusch Dead Man, and like this guitar. Um, but also we found uh, an instrument which is the haldorophone. This is not an instrument that exists in the market. It's a guy who has made this instrument in his PhD. They exist only two in. It's like an electronic cello basically, and creates this deep, like deep bass sound
Hmm.
that also kind of contributed to this atmosphere of this industrial monster creating a threat around the characters and around the place. And we also used score and also diegetic music, like songs from like Greek folk songs, or to
Sure.
give also a sense of the identity of,
Yeah.
of characters and of Greece.
I wonder, could you talk a little bit about the choice to have the son be a motorbike rider and sort of is that actually something that's like popular or common in that part of Greece, or what was the impetus behind that choice?
Um, I mean, in Greece, because of the weather, because it is like California a little bit, the weather here. So it's a weather that permits, like, people use a lot motorbikes. Um, I mean, in terms of the dramaturgy, I like this antithesis of the Western, of like, is like the father is like a rider who has this horse. It's like the horse is his best friend. He doesn't ride it anymore because he's preoccupied with dealing with his enemies. And now it's like the young rider with his motorbike, and
Yeah.
this contrast between the old and the organic, let's say, that the father represents with the actual horse, and the new, which is the mechanic, in a way, the more industrial, which the son comes to represent in the beginning with his industrial horse.
Yeah,
You know,
and even going back to the sound, I think you hear his bike before you even see the character. It's like you
yeah,
hear the bike in the darkness, so it feels
exactly,
like this sort of intrusion of the new into into the
exactly.
old. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and you've mentioned the idea of it being sort of inspired by westerns a couple times. Is that something that you had sort of in your initial concept for the film, you were thinking of westerns or
Not really. I mean, it's as I said before, the character came first, and through the character and the situation that he was in, and then the social conflicts and the violence around him, and his shotgun and his loneliness. Um, we said, okay, this sounds like a western, and we used this idea that we can, that we touched upon the aesthetic of western in a way. But also it has many differences from the traditional western, because the landscape is not like hot and dry. It's like humid and cold, and I mean, to begin with, it's from the point of view of the natives and not of the cowboys.
yeah.
It's from the point of view of the people that care about their land and love their land. um, and also, as I mentioned before, and tries to change the concept of masculinity that you see usually in the traditional westerns.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, has the film been released in Greece yet? I imagine with COVID that it's
Yeah,
changed some of those plans.
yeah, exactly. It's difficult. I mean, we try to find the best timing for this, and with how things are going, because every 2 weeks, the plan changes. I mean, the situation changes. So it's really difficult to know. I mean, we hope that we would release it in early December, late November, but now we have to see how things are going.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
Well, even just in festival screenings and things like that, what's the response been like from audiences? I guess from all over the world, but I guess I'm particularly curious to hear how Greek audiences are going to react to the film.
Yeah, we haven't done the premiere in Greece yet. We're gonna do it in Thessaloniki Festival in November,
Okay.
mid-November. Um, I mean, in terms of the audience reaction, this is the thing that I miss the most because I'm not there, interacting with the audience because of the situation. I'm really sad about that. I mean, I'm very happy that the film travels, at least. Um, the only chance I had to interact with the audience was in Berlin in the international premiere, and I was very pleased with the feedback I got, because I felt that people were relating in some parts of the film. Different people in different aspects of the film, but it was very satisfying to see positive responses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be curious to know too if people are empathizing more or responding more to the father or the son character, because I feel like it could very much go either way, sort of depending on your own life perspective. I definitely could empathize with both of them, but I feel like they both are sort of in the right and in the wrong at various points of the film. So it would be pretty fascinating to hear how people respond to that. But you know,
Yeah, it's interesting to say that, because this is, the idea of the Greek tragedy from the old tragedies is that everybody is right, but nobody can find the right, in a way. Nobody
yeah,
can find and yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is that the audiences we had, like, I had like people coming which were like fathers with the daughters or fathers with the son, and they both liked the film.
mm-hmm.
So yes, I mean, some people, depending on the role that they are, maybe they can identify more with some part. Other people were more interested in the environmental, political aspect of the film, which is still fine. And interesting to see that somebody was connecting with the personal story, some people were connecting with the social story more. And for me, it was very interesting that I found also that it was not only men but women were also very interested in the, and I'm glad, because it's a, let's say, story about males, but it's about the absence of a female. It's like the absence of the female. It's in a way creates all the tension between them. The absence of the mother is what creates this antagonistic relationship, or makes it worse, at least.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's sort of like the landscape. It's not a character, but I feel like the lack of that mother character is almost a character within this dynamic between the father and the son. So yeah, that
yeah.
is really interesting that you said that.
Mm.
Well, so this is your first narrative feature film,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, so what were some of the unforeseen challenges or anything like that of making a feature film for the first time?
Yeah. Everything was
Everything.
unforeseen. Even now, like, I mean, for the first time, it's very difficult to raise the money, especially in an industry which is so poor. So it took us a lot of time to to de- to find financing. And it was a French-Greek co-production. Fortunately, I mean, we found the right people who supported and believed in the film. My Greek producer, Athena Tsangari from House Film. We have 3 production companies from Greece involved. French co-production. We have, our agent, Match Factory. So if there wasn't these people, we wouldn't make it possible. Um, I mean, the script, the good thing about waiting to find all the money is that we had time to develop more and more the script, which is maybe the most important thing for a first timer. Um, because then, you never have the time you want and you need in shooting. So everything was, I mean, the shooting was like people risked their lives for the shooting because the conditions were so difficult in like 1,500 meters, shooting with rain, like falling trees, like explosions, snow. So it was, with a crew that was like a guerrilla crew, so everything is a challenge, an unforeseen challenge, basically. The shooting was like being in a boxing ring. And now, after 5 years that it took us to develop it and shoot it and complete it, now, we have this global pandemic. So, and we don't even know, we don't know how to release it. So everything is a fight. Um,
Yeah.
let's
Well,
say
yeah,
it's
that must
fun,
be a really challenging way
challenging.
to
Yeah.
sort of deliver your first film to the world, to have it sort of premiere and then have this weird thing where it gets just completely cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm glad that even, under these circumstances, there are festivals like yours, and that they're, managing to keep it going, and that you make the festival possible, and at least we can communicate the film, uh, even online,
Yeah,
even
totally.
on,
I mean, yeah, people are still seeing the film and responding to it, and
yeah,
but I still imagine there's some disappointment for you. So that must be
yeah,
really tough. But
yeah.
have you been able to, in this time, at least sort of, work on writing more screenplays or planning future projects? What do you have in store?
Yeah, I mean, I'm developing an idea now for the next feature, and in a way, it comes like a natural progression, because this film is about masculinity and about Earth, which is like a masculine element, let's say, and it's like the father's land, and the roots, and this has, I don't know, to me at least, a male quality. And so the next one will be about water, and about the female element of which is connected with water, and about giving life, and about motherhood. And so it's going to be a female character on an island, probably. So yeah, I mean, I haven't. Yeah, so that's the next project will be about these themes.
Well, that sounds great. Yeah, it definitely sounds like the inverse of Digger, sort of like a yin and yang
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
project. Well, George, thank you so much for taking the time to talk today. And again, we are really grateful that we were able to share the film because we think it's a really wonderful film with our audience. So
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
again for allowing us to share it and for taking the time to talk.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for having the film in the festival. Great pleasure and honor.
Of course, it's our pleasure. So thank you.